Before, can I try share my screen?
Actually, we just went live, so I guess we can just wait and see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was,
Yeah. Yeah, we
all
can.
right.
Maybe we'll have a nice surprise later if it won't work. But yeah, we can start. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the Foreman community demo. I'm Nofar, I'm a Foreman developer, and I'll be your host for today's demo. Today we have some updates to share with you about our last release, some community news, and some new things we've been working on. Okay, but before we get started, this demo is all about showing you the latest updates and answering any questions you might have. So we want to hear from you. To make this as interactive as possible, feel free to ask questions and share your thoughts with us. You can do this in two ways, by posting your questions and comments on IRC at the Foreman, or by using the YouTube live chat feature. We'll be monitoring both channels throughout the demo, so don't hesitate to speak up. Okay, let's have a quick look at our agenda for today's demo. We have 7 topics total. Our UX designer Maria has a topic to share. Also Lena, our docs lead, and some Katello and Foreman demos by our developers. So without further ado, let's get started. Actually, before we get started with the demos, I would like to remind you all that the second release candidate of Foreman 3.7, known as RC3, is now available for testing. We kindly request your assistance in testing this release candidate and reporting any issues you encounter during the upgrades or installation process. We are almost at the end of the testing phase, so please use the next week to share your findings, either here in the community or in our issue tracker. And yeah, your feedback will help improve the stability of the future release, and we would appreciate your participation. So, okay, yeah, our next topic. Before we move on, let me just make sure everything's working properly. Yeah, great, can continue. Okay, so we have a significant update to share regarding the community monitoring rotation. So starting on June 26, we'll be implementing a new rotation system to enhance user support in our forum. Under this system, a designated person will be assigned each week to ensure users receive timely support and answers to their questions. However, rather than handling all the inquiries individually, the person in charge will collaborate with our developers whenever necessary. And to keep track of who is in charge of specific dates, we have created a community post listing the rotation schedule, and you can find the details there and stay updated on who will be available to assist you each week. Yeah, so Archana, who couldn't join us today, will be leading the rotation system. So if you have questions or need further clarification, please don't hesitate to ask her or reach out to Archana directly. And yeah, so we believe this rotation system will greatly improve our user support experience, and we appreciate your cooperation as we work together to provide exceptional assistance to the community. Okay, and the next topic is from Maria, our UX designer, talking about redesigning proposal for the job detail page.
Thank you, Nofar. So let me share my screen. And where it is? Yeah, thank you. So, yes. What we have here is my proposal to a new job detail page. Right now, we are giving more space to a list of involved hosts. Plus, we can see the status of the job on those hosts. And what's more, we are hiding a couple of information which may or may not be super crucial at the first glance. So in this show more part, we have schedule, target host, inputs, and other advanced settings. Also, we don't have tabs for viewing templates or job details. We have all the details within the expandable row. Of course, it can be also opened in a new tab. So we are working on it. There is
conference number.
there is more interaction happening. So, for example, if you hover on the chart, you would get a tooltip with Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but there is an echo.
And now? Yeah, seems right because I don't hear myself anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that here we have an expandable rows for each of the hosts where we can see details of the job. And here we have some more interaction. By hovering on components, you will get more information. For example, you can see where the job failed at this host. So what I want from our community right now is to give me feedback on what I designed. There is a community thread, and Nofar will share it with you. And also there is a survey. I'm really interested in how do you feel about this proposal? Also, what are the most important information that you are looking for at this page? And if there is something missing or too hidden and you really need to see it right away when you are entering this detail page. So this is all. Thank you very much. And everything is in the thread in community demo.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Maria. So we'll make sure you have all the necessary links in the community post. And we can move on to our next demo. Okay, so next up is Lena, our docs lead, with a new guide for managing security compliance.
Yeah, hello. Okay, we have tuned our settings, so I will present my screen. To introduce myself, I am a freelance technical writer writing for Red Hat. This is my first time presenting, so it may take a minute. Yeah, almost there. So you should see my screen in a second. Thank you. So I have created a new guide, which is called Managing Security Compliance. You can already find it in Foreman nightly documentation and also in version 3.6. I have basically taken the old content about OpenSCAP and improved it, restructured it, rewrote most of it, and yeah, I have also added how to deploy a compliance policy using Ansible, which is something that was missing there before. So that's an important addition, and we still keep extending the guide and improving it further. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, that was great. Thanks, Lena, for the update. And we hope to hear more from you in the future. And moving on. Yeah, next topic is from Ian, which probably had a very busy sprint doing the latest Foreman release. So Ian, let's see what you've planned for us today.
Thanks, Nofar. Yeah, so I'll be showing y'all about a new feature for skipping treeinfo files. And let me just get my screen shared. Okay. So this feature that we added stems from a bug that some users hit, where certain upstream repositories had misconfigured web servers where if you try to get the treeinfo file, I believe the issue was it was throwing a redirect. And this made it impossible for Pulp to tell if the file was truly there or not. So the way that we worked around it, and also just to, at the same time, bring some value by having choice to skip files, the Pulp team decided that the best way to do it would be to have the option to skip syncing these treeinfo files in general for Yum repositories. And we have also in Katello enabled users to choose this option. So when I talk about treeinfo files, it's a part of the whole like kickstart tree that you'll have in a Yum repository. So let me just show you what this looks like. So I have a bunch of rel repos synced here. And so on my my rel 9 repos, I enabled the ignoring treeinfo. You can see it right here. It's just below ignore SRPMs. Now under the hood, it's pretty much using the same thing as the ignoring for SRPMs. It's kind of what we would consider to be a skip type. So if you're doing this from Hammer, you'll just need to include the treeinfo type as in the skip types array. So since I had this enabled, I synced this repository earlier, and you'll notice this was supposed to be a Kickstart repo, but it's saying there's no distribution information available. And that's because I skipped syncing the treeinfo file. And you'll see the same thing here on my base OS repo. Again, no distribution information available. So if for some reason you need the RPMs from a Kickstart repo, but you don't actually want any of the Kickstart things, or if you have a repository like, I think like CentOS 7, where it's all bundled together, you could skip syncing some of that. But just so for reference, for what it looks like normally, I didn't skip treeinfo on my rel 8.8 Kickstart, and you can see the distribution information for if you're going to be provisioning using this content. And so yeah, if anyone ever hits an error where you're syncing a repository and it says something like treeinfo file not found or treeinfo file malformed, it'll be an error from Pulp3. You should know, okay, try to ignore the treeinfo file, and we'll go from there. We also, for that particular error, I believe we renamed the error to make it more helpful to tell you to actually skip the treeinfo stuff. And when you're creating the repo, there will also be a bit of information, just a little like pop-up question mark that you can hover over to read more info about it. But yeah, that's all for me. Let me know if you have any questions. Jeremy has a question.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, besides that distribution information that it shows there, do you lose anything else by skipping treeinfo?
Nope, the only thing you lose is that you won't be able to provision from it. Or, well, I guess that comes with this information. So if this information's here, that means that nbootable is true. That means that you will be able to provision from it. So it's really just provisioning that you lose.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Let's check if we have any questions. No, all clear. Okay, so let's move on. And our next up is Samir from the Katello team with recent bug fixes and updates on Katello.
Awesome. Hey everyone, I have a few updates around some changes that are going in for 9. Some of these are updates, some of these are bug fixes. So let me start with a small bug fix here. So if you've been using capsules, you're probably aware of this setting, which is sync smart proxies after content view promotion. You can set this to no, you can set this to yes. What this does is basically when you promote a content view to a lifecycle environment, which has a smart proxy attached, based on this setting, we would auto start the capsule sync, the smart proxy sync. Sorry. In 4.5, we did some refactoring around smart proxy syncs, and somehow we stopped respecting this setting. So that was a bug, and the capsule sync would automatically start after promotion to a relevant environment, irrespective of this setting. So we have now fixed that bug, so you can use this setting as expected again with 4.9, and we'll probably want to backport it to some earlier releases. All right. Next up, there's a change to capsule syncs again, where if you look at this content view here, it says export library. What this tells you is this was created as a result of exporting library content. So if I go to details, you'll see this one says generated, and generated content views cannot be published directly. And these are mostly created by always created by the import export process. These are not meant to be tied to clients directly. These are meant to create repositories in the downstream Foreman Katello. And so what we have done now is earlier we used to sync all of these export import content views down to the smart proxy, but they were mostly unusable because you did not want clients to be directly registered to an export import or generated content view. So the change here is by default, we do not sync any generated content views to capsules anymore. So so you'll see all of these content views are synced to smart proxy, but this export content view was not. So you can see that indication here. While preparing for this demo, I saw this, and this is good for demo purposes, but I will think about hiding this, all of the generated CVs in this content tab view for the smart proxy. I think that's an update we can probably make. I'll discuss that with the team. Okay. Next thing I wanted to show was some updates to regenerate metadata or republish metadata. So what we have here is basically, if I go to a content view, let me open a couple of content views I'll use for this. So I have a CV demo. If I go to the repository here, it has 2 repositories, and these are the 2 we'll be looking at. So you'll notice this repository has a mirroring policy of complete mirroring. What that tells Katello and Pulp is basically the metadata should be copied from the upstream server instead of being regenerated or generated inside of Pulp or Katello. So what we have done here is, so let's look at ID 12. If you try to republish metadata for a repository which is supposed to just blindly copy metadata from upstream, it will fail. So now you cannot update or republish metadata for complete mirroring repositories. And so let's try this as well. So this repository, for example, does not use complete mirroring. It uses a content-only mirroring policy. So that means the publications, the metadata are generated locally in pulp instead of being copied from upstream. So you should be able to regenerate metadata for these repositories. And here you see the task started and it did republish metadata. On the content view level, so for example, if I have a content view version 4, it has these two child repositories. One of them is complete mirroring. The other one is not complete mirroring. So you can actually regenerate metadata for this one. If I were to republish metadata for this content view, it will so 31. So it will trigger a task. However, it will skip over all the child repositories of the content view that are using complete mirroring. So the only repositories of the version that get their metadata republished are the ones which are not using complete mirroring. So that's the update here. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So one last thing. So if you remember this create content view form, if you've used it before, you will remember there used to be an import only flag here in this creation form. That was a remnant from an earlier implementation of import export where we required users to create an import content view to be able to import into it. That workflow has improved and we do not require users to manually create import content views anymore. So that field has been taken out of this create content view form. Also on the details screen, so here, for example, this export library content view, this is a generated content view. This was not created by the user. So we show that information here. You will not see this flag, and there's another flag called import only. If you created that as for an import, you will not see these flags on content views that are not generated for an import export purpose. So you won't see that flag here. And yeah, I think those are all the updates I wanted to share here. Thank you.
Hi, Samir. This is Mark, and I have a question.
Yeah.
When you showed the smart proxy and the sync status, there was one thing that failed here. Is there a way to tell that for also like multiple proxies? Because recently I spoke with a user who has like 8 smart proxies, and he said, well, I would like to know which of them has a failure without going to details of each of them. So is there some way to tell, like, if I have multiple proxies, that some of them is actually failing, and then drill down to details of what sync failed?
So on the capsules detail page here on the smart proxy, we have this section which shows you the last successful sync task. So if you see this, that means the last sync was successful. In case there was a failure, you'll see a red progress bar here, and it will always show up with that red progress bar as long as there's an error on the last sync. Does that help?
Yeah, that's nice that I see from overview, but still I need to go to smart proxy detail page, right, to find out that something went wrong. Or is there maybe, yeah, on this page, is there some indication here that something went wrong?
No, not in this table now. Not in the list page. I don't think we have a column here for sync status.
Yeah, maybe it may be nice to integrate it to the status column here or somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions or we can move on? All other channels are clear, so guess we can move on. And if someone has any questions, can ask later. Okay, next up is Manisha. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, so with a, yeah, great. Manisha with a Foreman Fog Proxmox demo.
So, hi everyone. So me and my colleagues at Artix are actively working on improving the Foreman Fog Proxmox and Fog Proxmox plugin to improve the integration of Proxmox compute resource with Foreman. So today I'm gonna show two of the features I have added on the Proxmox side, and I will also tell you some of the bug fixes that are there on the Foreman Fog Proxmox side, and what features and bug fixes you can expect in next few days and weeks. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So first one is earlier when you created a snapshot using Proxmox host, you could only create a normal snapshot, but with now you have option to add the memory as well. So if you want to include the RAM like we have in vSphere, that feature is now available for Proxmox as well. So that is one of the features. Second is improving the UI for the creation of compute resources. So earlier, if you add the wrong URL or username or password and you try to submit it, it would break the UI for compute Proxmox compute resource. But now it just gives you nice error what might be wrong with it. So it might be something network issues. And if you just provide wrong data, for example, here I provide wrong URL and wrong username and password, and if I don't test the connection, so it's user's responsibility now, and it is advised that you test the connection before submitting it. And if I don't test it, it will simply create the compute resource. And now, if it doesn't work, then you can maybe test the connection and test your credentials. So that's another feature. Other than that, there were various bugs in Proxmox. So, for example, if you try to add the cloud init drive in your KMOR server virtual machine and host, it would throw error when you are creating the host. So it is now being fixed. And when you try to create a host, and if you try to update it while it's power on, then it would also throw error because somehow Proxmox was converting the memory from MBs to bytes. So that is also fixed. And there were other various issues that were being fixed. And in next few days and weeks, you can expect that when you create a host in other compute resources, it would automatically start the host or power it on. And this is the behavior you expect. But with Proxmox, it was not starting it. And even if you provide the start after creation with compute profile, it was not being transferred to the host. So you would have to manually check the start after creation flag, and then you can create the host. So which is not a nice idea. So I'm working on it, and it should be ready in next few days. Other than that, when you create a host, the console is not working with Proxmox, so that will be ready again in next few days. And when you create a host using Foreman API, Proxmox expects a VM ID. So in GUI, it automatically gives you the available VM ID. So next VM ID, but when you are creating the host using Foreman API, that feature is not available. So that will also be available in next few days or weeks. Yeah, that's mainly from my side. So any questions?
Okay, thanks a lot, Manisha. I don't see any questions. So yeah, can move on. So just want to mention that there was supposed to be a demo about Ansible that I was supposed to present, and we will do it next week with another developer Oleg, which is the original developer for this feature, and he'll be presenting it next week. So sorry for the wrong input. And yeah, we can move on to our Foreman developer focused demos. And we have Leo with a new automation for gem release.
Yep. Hello. There is going to be a little change. Maria, our JavaScript developer, will be talking about one small change. So
It's a surprise topic. I'll add it to the agenda later. I just wanted to update that we are removing storybook from our project. It was mostly for old components that we don't want people to use anymore. And all the documentation about UI should be taken from the Patternfly website. And we should only use Patternfly components for most of the things. I also took this as an opportunity to update some of the documentation and move it into Foreman developer docs folder. So it will be updated and in one place as all of the documentation. Thank you.
all right. And now I will present my thing. Does it share? No. Okay. I meanwhile I cancel it. So. Okay. I already like message that I'm sharing a window. Maybe the distance is too big, you know. Like, all right, yeah. So hello everyone. Yeah, 1 week ago I posted a topic on community website where I have my idea for automatic gem release after tag is created. Basically, what was my idea is that right now we are doing quite a lot of releases, especially in Foreman Ansible. And my vision was very simple, or still is, every single time when I update the version.rb file with a new version, I want GitHub Actions to take the action and actually do the release, push it to the RubyGems org, and also create a tag in the GitHub repository. So far, I've been playing only with my simple gem what I have. This is, I hope that you can see the font. Oh yeah, it's right. Okay, so this is the release action for the GitHub. It's very simple. You can see that it's checking this specified path for the version RB file. That can be, of course, different for each plugin. Then what it does is that it's check out the repository with the Ruby 2.7, run some bundle installation, get the version from the file, create the tag in the repository, and do the whole release thing with the gem build and gem push. When I look at it, I think it should be opposite. First, we should publish the gem, and if the action is successful, then after that we should create the tag. But that's a small detail, small change. And also here, I'm doing all the steps manually, you know, creating the temp there, building the gem spec, but we already have action for that in the Foreman repository from about. So yeah, this is my implementation, but in the future, if we will start using that in the Foreman organization, we will use our actions. Also here, I'm using some guys action with version 001. That's of course also not ideal. So we could implement it by ourselves, so we know what is exactly happening in the action. So Let me show you how it works. So I'll go to my Ola gem and I will update the version. So as you can see right now, I have version 101. So let's change it to 2. So it will be more. Right. I will commit changes directly to the main, which is not the best practice, but it's just demo bump version 2. And commit the changes. And let's see the actions. You can see the action is already running, and it's named release, please. I don't know where it came from, but I guess it's one of my test strings. So let's see what is happening. Oh yeah. So there's some setup actions. This one is checkouting the repository. We are preparing the Ruby right now, and then it's pretty simple. Installing the bundle, all the requirements, set variables. This is for loading the variable from the version.rb file. Oh yeah, and you can see that we already tagged the repository and published the gem, and voila, it's green. So if I will go right now to the rubygems.org, oh la la, you can see here that version 2.00 has been published. And if I will go to the text, you can see 1 minute ago, it created automatically. And yeah, that's all from me today. If you have any ideas or stuff to talk about, please go to this community post and add your comment. From what I've seen, the only thing that I'm not sure if it's really good is that for creating the tag in the repository, the GitHub token must have right permissions to the repository, which is, I'm not sure if it's good practice or not. So we need to discuss that. And plus for the RubyGems API call, the 2FA authentication must also be disabled because you can't do 2FA in the GitHub Actions. Or can you? I don't know. Those are two kind of security issues that I would like to discuss before I will start implementing in the Foreman plugins. Anyway, the first plugin where I will do that will be Foreman Ansible, and when it will be production ready, I will send message with this is how we do it. Feel free to implement it on your plugins. And that's all for me.
Quick addition on the two-factor authentication. You can't do it now, but they're working on it that you can get some sort of token via GitHub Actions, and it's being worked on, but not sure how far it is.
Cool.
And if we start adopting it for the Foreman plugins, what user on the rubygems.org, what user account will be used to actually push the gem in there?
That's good question, because there is one Foreman user that can do all for all repositories. But I'm not sure if it's a good practice or if we should have like Foreman Ansible user in RubyGems that would be managing only Foreman. This is up, I don't know, discussion between the members, what they think what is best. I personally don't have problem using the Foreman one, but maybe we want to track, what kind of changes every account is doing. So maybe we want to scope it more. So
yeah, I can jump into that. What we do for the smart proxy DNS info blocks, we have set up that already. I create an API key just scoped to a single gem. So the API key is only for a single repository.
Yeah.
And that I think is sufficient to mitigate it.
And another thing that I forgot to say, for example, in Foreman Ansible, we are pushing things to master or develop branch, and then we do the release. So these actions can happen. But in some plugins, what they do that they will actually create the brand, create the tag and everything, and then start, matching the stuff and doing the release. So there, I don't know, we would have to kind of change it different way, So we release after the changes are merged. Some of people are changing the branch, the version before they start merging the stuff. So I'm not sure which plugins are doing that, to be honest, but we need to take that into consideration when we will be applying this everywhere.
Something I would
also,
like.
yeah, I just wanted to add, I think this would be awesome to have in Katello as well. The only issue I could potentially see is we just started kind of the new process of when we build our gem, we also need to generate the MO files for the translations, which I don't know, I can't remember exactly how much needs to be set up, but that might just make this slightly more complicated for our plugin. I don't know if any other plugins need to do that, which maybe it can be run in this action right here. I'm not sure, but I figured I'd mention it.
That's actually a good point. It could be also part of this. We could just pull the MO and update the MO files. Yeah, right now you need to first update all the translations, merge it, and then you can update the version.rb file, but definitely could be extended for the translation updates. If we are going to unify the process and make it work, which we almost have, except the Hammer plugins, if I'm not mistaken, right now. Please feel free to correct me. Look into.
I mean, some gems ship DMO files in Git.
Yeah.
But Katello builds them on demand.
Oh, yeah.
Before the release.
Okay.
So
it's something we.
There.
Yeah, we should do a better job at.
Okay.
What you can also consider is splitting it into one creates a tag and then another action. When a tag is pushed, it pushes it to Ruby gems. But those are small information details. What I would also suggest is finding some way to also do the packaging PR automatically if the gem is built, because that's just always the same steps anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a lot of things that we can improve. I would like to start with something really small, and when this will prove, like, let's say, have it 1 month, 2 months at Foreman Ansible repo or some others, and when it will be working as we expect, then let's add the translations there, let's add the pinging the RPM repositories. Yeah, no problem with that.
Okay, thank you. Sounds great. Really, thanks a lot, Leo, for this great idea. And any other questions? Okay. If not, I would like to mention that the next demo is on July 6th. And I would like to thank everyone for joining, and of course to our great team. Thanks for sharing your work with us today. So see you all next time.
Thank you, Nofar. Thank you, all presenters. Nice demo.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.